Have you ever tried to explain a concept and had people's eyes just glaze over? That's what happened to me when I tried to explain the difference between a million and a billion to my teenagers. I said that a billion was 1,000 millions, and it just didn't connect. It was too big of a number. So then I said, well, if you were to count 1 second, one number every second, you would hit a million in 12 days. But it would take you 32 years to hit a billion. My daughter turned to me and said, wow, I'd be 46. That's so old. I was 44 at the time. That's when I realized that numbers don't always speak for themselves, but analogies, they can connect. They can explain the unfamiliar using the familiar. Analogies work because they help people relate what they know already to what they don't yet know. It's like a mental bridge that can turn confusion into clarity. Why would you want to use analogies? A few other reasons. Make abstract ideas concrete, something that they can see. Engage the imagination, help people understand a concept faster, and it's more likely to stick in their memory. Good analogies don't just explain, they connect. Let's quickly look at a few famous analogies. Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. And to continue the quote, you just never know what you're going to get. This analogy, comparing life to a box of chocolates, highlights the unpredictability of life. Lincoln, in his quote, a house divided against itself cannot stand, compared a divided nation to a house that will collapse if unity is not achieved. Benjamin Franklin, time is money. Time is a valuable resource, and wasting it is like wasting money. Let's take a quick look at some simple analogies. I'll do the first one. And you can see there's a notation method in mathematics for indicating analogies. And you would say it like this: car is to drive as plane is to fly. You drive a car, you fly a plane. A few more, and I'll just wait a couple seconds for you to think of it. Pen is to write as hammer is to. A few answers would work here. Hammer is to build, hammer is to hit. Anything that a hammer does, that's like what a pen does. Letter is to word as word is to. If you said sentence, you got it, because a letter is a part of a word and a word is a part of a sentence. Hot is to cold as light is to dark. We have opposites. Hot and cold are opposites. Light and dark are opposites. Full is to empty, as start is to finish. Again, opposites. Seed is to plant, as egg is to, you might have said bird. A plant comes from a seed and a bird comes from an egg, or perhaps some other animal would come from an egg. If you said turtle, you'd have that right too. Last one. Knowledge is to power as ignorance is to. So that one might be tricky. You might have a few answers here, but weakness would be one. All right, let's look at an extended analogy that has a few components. Here's an example. Managing a team is like conducting an orchestra. Now, here the assumption is made that the person you're talking to has some familiarity with orchestras. What do most people know about orchestras? There's a conductor up front. Each musician plays a different instrument. They all follow the same sheet music. And when it works, it's harmony. Now, if you apply that to team management, you could see yourself as the conductor. Your team members have different roles and different strengths, like instruments. You provide a shared vision or goal that would be like the sheet music. And your job as the conductor isn't to play every part, it's to bring out the best in everyone. That could be the power of an analogy. In one sentence, managing a team is like conducting an orchestra. You've painted a picture. Now, when it comes to creating an extended analogy, you want to take people from confusion, something they don't quite understand, to clarity. And you first have to consider your audience. Who is your audience? What is their knowledge or level of experience? Why do they care about what you're talking about? And what do they need to know? Then you have to consider the unfamiliar concept. What's the purpose? And then the familiar concept. What is something that you could compare? Well, to give you an example, I once explained the cloud to my 86-year-old dad. He had very little knowledge or experience. He was somewhat familiar with computers. He used computers. Why did he care? He just didn't want to be looking ignorant, like not completely knowing. And what did he need to know? He just needed to know the basics, nothing fancy. The concept was that the cloud allows you to access information and services online from more than one place. You don't have to be at your home computer. And what might be a familiar concept to compare? Well, the first thing that came to my mind was ATMs. And it was, we had a conversation. Dad, you know how ATMs let you withdraw money from your bank pretty much anytime, anywhere without actually going into your bank? That's what the cloud does, but for information or services. You don't have to have them on your computer. You don't even have to access them from your computer. You could access them from another computer or your phone. Anywhere you have the internet, you can access them. So that gave him just enough information to help him understand the concept. Now it's your turn to create an analogy. Here's some ideas you might explain to use with one of your own concepts. You might compare a process that you have to cooking using a recipe. You could talk about how time is like a thief. You might talk about how creating a speech is building a home. What's the foundation? Or a very common one is to compare business with farming. Or you can use something else. Give it a shot. Bringing it back to where we started, my teenagers finally understood somewhat the scale of 1 billion years because they could relate it to something they knew. And that's the beauty of an analogy. They take the familiar, the abstract, and make it understandable, make it relatable. So whether you're explaining a complex idea in a meeting, giving a speech, or helping someone understand a concept from a new perspective, a well-placed analogy can be your secret weapon. It can be your bridge. So the next time you see that glazed over look in someone's eyes, don't just repeat yourself louder. Reach for a bridge. Reach for a connection. Reach for an analogy.